Hello, welcome. It's Margaret Ross, Vice Chair for the e-learning specialist group and Chair of the Hampshire group, and I'd like to welcome you to this webinar. We have a fantastic program for you this evening, and I'll be passing on to Still shortly, and he will explain his background and also how it's all going to work. But just a couple of things before we begin. Today is a bit of a special day. The 5th of October in the UK is Teachers' Day, and this is the day that we sort of think about all the teachers who've been working so hard during this closed down period since all the lockdown in all the countries. So today is the day we sort of basically raise our cup of tea or coffee to all the teachers and say thank you very much for all that you're doing. Now, in addition, for this evening, we are recording this meeting, and it will be put up hopefully with a link across to this onto the appropriate BCS website where you found the details of this event. All the PowerPoints are also going to be put up there. Now there's a video, there's a slight problem with the sound, but the actual link for the video so you can look at it afterwards will also be put up on that website. So you'll be able to see this. Now, because we're recording it and to keep things moving on, particularly for the recording, we're not taking questions during, but we would like you to actually raise any questions on your points by using the chat. So you'll find the chat area. So any questions that you've got at the end, they'll all be sort of addressed and still have a look at those all and we'll come back to it. So at this time, it's now the right time, and in which case I will pass across and say thank you very much for this presentation. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Margaret. I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to be here with you and the British Computer Society. Welcome, everyone. Also, see there's still people coming in, and you know that I'm going to try to make this an interactive presentation. So what we're going to do is I would like to use the chat. So let's try to use the chat. So if you would like to share with us where you are from, where you're situated right now, or where is the country you're your country resident or not. So are you able to access and write in the chat? So if you can, please do so as to make a kind of test to make sure that we can still hear me and you're able to write in the chat. So as people are still arriving.
Okay.
So let's see if you're trying. I don't see any messages in the chat. So let's see if they can. If you have the option to send, yeah. Ah, there you go. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Margaret from the UK. Yeah. Okay, so there is one message. Anybody else able to use the chat? You should be able to find the chat function in the GoToWebinar window. So people are still arriving. So we're winning some time through this way, but I don't see any other messages. So we'll see.
Possibly you'd like to talk about your background for a moment.
Yeah, okay, so why am I here? So my name is Stylianos Mistakidis, and I am a learning innovator. So I love to use all kinds of different exotic things to improve and enhance learning. So I'm also a researcher and educator at the University of Patras in Greece, that's near Olympia, and also the Hellenic Open University. So my passion is e-learning and distance education. So, and I have a fair background and experience from teaching actually in the United States and the UK as well, in the University of the West of England in Bristol, in a master's that I had there. So in this webinar, we're going to explore how we can transform e-learning and distance education with playful design and gamification. So let's get it up. Let's start. So normally here you can see a nice picture that depicts how e-learning was seen in 100 years ago. So they thought that in 2000 this is how we're going to be learning. So the instructor, he would have all the information, and then he will pass on the information to the students by using some kind of technology. So normally I would ask you here some more information about you, but since the chat is not so reliable for us to use, I'll keep it moving. So, but here is another question, and I would like to pose to you. Do you see in this image? It's a kind of a visual quiz. So can you guess what this picture shows and where it was situated? I will give you some clues and some options, and then maybe if you can share some of your ideas in the chat. So first of all, it could be a toy, it could be a simulator for the Navy, could be a health equipment, or it could be a child VR tool. So what do you think? What could this be? Any ideas? Anything in the chat? Margaret, what do you think? You're the one who can definitely use the chat. Okay, so you think it's a toy? Right, indeed. Well, you know, since we are a little bit, I like to be a little bit playful here around. Actually, it's a little bit of all of them, but actually it is an MRI machine. So it was a health equipment. And why does it have this kind of appearance? Well, this is a way to turn a scare in a painful context for children into delight and an enjoyable experience. So now you can see this is an example of playful design in medicine. And this is exactly what we're going to do. We are going to discuss and hopefully appreciate a little bit more playful and gameful design. And also, hopefully, we're going to explore and recognize the value of social virtual reality and that is e-learning in 3 dimensions. And finally, hopefully, you will be able to identify some meaningful strategies and approaches that are appropriate for your context. So, of course, we're now living in the COVID era of the pandemic, where emergency remote teaching is no longer emergency; it's like a new normal. And of course, we know that even before there was a rising demand for e-learning, but also tertiary education and lifelong learning. Plus, we know that e-learning carries the potential to deliver anywhere, anytime, flexible education for all. But as we know, this hasn't happened yet. So current online teaching and learning practices, they do face serious limitations in terms of quality and effectiveness. So, and here is to illustrate and bring also some numbers into the actual problems that we have in e-learning. One of the aspects and delivery methods of e-learning is, of course, the massive open online courses, or MOOCs. And of course, they did bring the distance education to the spotlight worldwide. However, we know that the average completion rate is very low, less than 7%, according to some researchers, while in MOOC platforms of Harvard and MIT, the average completion rate was 4%. Of course, some national groups that were much more successful, but even they were achieved up to 14%. So higher education faces the following challenge. How can we design and organize e-learning in ways that keeps our students engaged, motivated, and self-directed at the same time, to be able to overcome adversity and manage the cognitive load of e-learning? Of course, this is also relevant to all other levels of education as well. So again, here's what I would like to ask you. What do you think are these people doing and having these expressions? So let me give you some ideas, and then maybe you can write in the chat what you think. Margaret, please do as well. So maybe they're attending a lecture, or maybe they are thinking about an assignment, or maybe they are writing in a forum, or something else. What do you think? Or maybe they're doing something else. Maybe where do you think we would find this kind of expressions? Where will you see? Any idea? What are these people doing? Well, I'm going to give you 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Well, these people are actually playing. They are in the brink. Okay. In a fair, the ghost train. Okay, that could be. That could be. possibility. Well, actually, they are in the brink of what we call an epic win. So they're playing a game. So you see, they're engaged, they're immersed, all the attention is there. Wouldn't that be great if we have this kind of emotional engagement and investment into learning? Well, that's a fairy tale, right? But still, what we can learn is that motivation is very, very important. And I think that this has been described as the engine of learning. And we sometimes, as teachers and education practitioners, we are most of the time thinking about the content. So let's produce the material and everything and the lecture and so on. But we forget the people on the other side of the screen or of the auditorium most of the times, and we forget that we need to empower them. We need to motivate them to do that. So in order to also tackle some of these deficiencies of e-learning that we described previously, one of the idea is to purposefully enhance learners' motivation. So because we know that, and I think we have also this experience ourselves, is that when people like and enjoy online and offline learning experiences that are meaningful to them, then they tend to engage, take initiatives, act, set and achieve their relevant goals in it. So that's exactly what we want. So let's be very systematic. So I'm an engineer as well, so I want to make a very systematic approach. And so how we can enhance motivation of our students? Well, here are 3 methods that can be found. So these methods are game-based learning methods that they include playful design, gameful design or gamification, and serious games. Now, serious games, they involve a game, which is a set of meaningful choices in a restrictive context with a primary serious educational purpose. However, this approach, the serious games, is a method of potentially high complexity and requires significant effort and preparation. So what we're going to do, since we want to be pragmatic and keep it simple, is that we're going to focus on the first 2 approaches, playful and gameful design, and see how we can apply them. So we start with playful design. Playful design is the simplest way to integrate the enjoyable element of fun in a serious educational context. So, for example, everything that is mundane and boring, we can turn it into interesting and fun. And here's one example you might know if you are a long-time user of the internet with Twitter, the fail whale, which was the funny error message page whenever Twitter wasn't able to respond to the growing demand for the service. So whenever the server was down. However, playful design, it can be used to encourage pro-social, I would say, or any kind of useful behavior. Here's one very specific example, which is called the music stairway. So what they do in these examples that you see is they turn a staircase into a piano, an actual giant piano, where each time you step on the staircase, you start playing the piano just like you would. So in this way, they encouraged and people used took the stairs instead of the elevator, and they had fun going up and down the stairs so that they can hear the sound that are generated once they step on the stairs. So that's playful design. And here's another example now in an educational context where you can read the introductory message for one story that sets the stage for one course, where students are actually the heroes and they are challenged to engage in a series of tasks so that they can showcase their skills and build new skills so that they can win, let's say, the game. Now, gamification, on the other hand, is something different than playful design, because it's the application of game design elements in a non-gaming context. And here you can see one example where in this school, the Quest to Learn, it's an innovative school in New York, in the United States. In this way, they can turn a history lesson into a board game. So by gamification, we turn something which isn't a game, we turn it into a game. So, and this is another avenue that we can take. And let's be even more specific, and let's talk about playful and gameful design in e-learning. So in order to use and introduce playful design, what we can do is come up with a story like the example before, or other visual metaphors, or even aesthetics that are relevant, such as sound. And now I'm trying to play a video for you, and hopefully you will be able to hear the music. But if not, I will ask you to pay some attention. So this is an example of how you can turn the introduction of your course into by using playful design, using some metaphors. So let's see. Let's go. So hopefully you're able to hear the sound. But here are the fights that you're going to be. It's a fight course. So theory versus practice. Heavy white. Innovation versus tradition to transform teaching. Teachers versus professors, or researchers, you could say, with exciting challenges. Now I'm back on my feet. The man with his will to survive. What happens too fast? You take your passion for love. All right. So you get the idea. So hopefully you will be able to hear a little bit of the sound, which was also to augment and to provide this narrative of this course that instead of a series of assignment has a lot of fun and introduces challenges for the students. And again, so this was one example of a playful design in the form of a video. And then a gameful design is all about turning, again, as we say, the experience of the course into a game. And then here, one example, one reference that I can put is if you search for game MOOC, you'll see a massive open online course on game design, which is actually a game. You play and you win points by engaging with the content. So that's another example. So, however, technology is crucial for playful design and gameful design. So of course, it's possible to do it with existing tools like the ones that we are using. However, I advocate to re-examine and focus our attention on social virtual reality, or as we used to know them as 3D virtual worlds, which are three-dimensional computer-generated spaces that facilitate the social or psychological immersion of participants. Now, they have some affordances that are superior to web-based solutions, and we're going to see and talk more about them in the future as well during this webinar. So, continuing on, of course, someone will say, yeah, we know that's all history. It's dead. We used to use them 10 years ago and so on. Yes, indeed, you're right. Because 10 years ago, we used to have server client applications such as Second Life and OpenSim and Minecraft, which is actually more new than the previous ones. However, there are more new solutions that are associated with the head-mounted displays for virtual reality, such as Altspace, VR, and Engage, and also standards like WebXR that also allow the opportunity of new platforms to emerge, such as Mozilla Hubs, that are web-based, so they are compatible across the whole spectrum of devices, such as PCs and desktops and laptops, but also headsets, and also mobile devices as well. So, for example, Rec Room is another platform for social virtual reality, which you can access in all three of these modalities. So there are all the new technologies that fall into this same umbrella that can be used. And so as to, if you haven't paying attention, if you have noticed, they, of course, we know that one of the limitations of these virtual worlds in the past was the fact that there was very limited number of people that you can use to host your event or your session. Well, not anymore. And that's why I'm talking about conferences that have already taken place in social virtual reality platforms. Of course, there was one conference that has taken place non-stop till and since 2010, and it still continues on. However, there are new ones that have emerged, and such as the Immersive Learning Research Network conference, where you can see these snapshots there. And if you noticed, and if it's distinguishable, you can see that it's more than 200 users concurrently in the virtual reality space. So it's possible to hold there all kinds of different formats of sessions, such as discussions, panel discussions, keynotes, poster sessions, and these are all available and accessible through normal computers, but also via headsets as well. So for the next segment of this webinar, I'm going to be sharing some information for experiences and cases that we did, and hopefully they will help you see and discover the value of these environments. So the first one, it's about the creation of a virtual museum on Maya civilization with the use of storytelling. And it featured 3 sections that had to do with medicine, science, mythology, and exploration, which was developed by teams of 3 to 4 people that were learning how to use virtual worlds for educational purposes. So here, one of these experience for mythology, we had the Maya ball game exhibit, where people can learn how to play, they can learn about the Maya ball game. So if you were thinking yourself, okay, Maya ball game is like a Maya football, how can I do that? So instead of telling in virtual worlds, we can actually use experience. So not just not telling, just showing, but also doing and experiencing. So what we did is to make sure, what we did is we created a studio where you receive a note card with the rules on how to play the game, and you're invited to score in this simulated court. And once you are successful, you are invited to receive a prize, a medal. But once you go there to receive it, you have a surprise. So here comes also the playful design as well, and the element. There's a bump. There's a teleportation gate that opens that invites you to enter and play and meet the challenge of the gods. Now I have to tell you here from the content side that actually the ball game was introduced by 2 demigods they call the hero twins in the Maya mythology, which they went to the Maya underworld and they play against the dark gods of the underworld, and they were able to win, and they were very cunning, and they were able to outsmart them, and they were able to survive this challenge that they brought, and they gave them they passed on the sport to the Maya people and to mankind. So here you're challenged to follow the footsteps of the mythological forefathers of the game, and you're invited to go into the Maya underworld, Xibalba. So of course, in 3D virtual worlds, yes, you can actually create and you can bring hell to your students. So payback time, so they don't just bring hell to you when things are not working. You can do that as well and bring them there. So this museum was full of this kind of exhibits. Now, so this went great. So people appreciated learning by playing and having fun and exploring. So it was quite popular. So a lot of people came worldwide, and they used it in all levels of education as resource for teaching. But of course, it was just for informal. It was an independent activity, let's say. So after that, we said, okay, let's try to make something more. So this was playful design. Let's go and try to make something more gameful. Let's introduce gamification and come up with a motivational framework for especially for e-learning, but also for massive open online courses. So we created and authored with colleagues from the Open University in the UK. We created a framework with on established motivational theories, such as the self-determination theory. And we created this open quest framework to enhance learner engagement and reduce attrition rates in MOOCs. And it drew from the success of quest-based initiatives, gamified web platforms, and multi-user digital games. So here, how this framework would work actually in paper, at least. So you start, you have one quest, and then you have the opportunity to create your own learning path, and it will be based on learning analytics and user profiles and preferences, and it will be using elements and mechanisms such as choice, quests, narration, reputation systems, such as leaderboards, and so on, and immediate feedback and other social elements. So this was a theoretical idea. And then, so the next step was, okay, let's try to go and bring some elements of some playful elements into a MOOC. Of course, it was not possible to gamify the whole MOOC, so we just used playful design. And this MOOC, MOOC that I designed and managed was the Open Workshop on Information Literacy, which was the first of its kind that used virtual reality. And it was a free and open for all. It was problem-based, of course, so it was with activities, and it was fully online with synchronous and asynchronous activities. So it was quite long, so 18 weeks, and we had a lot of participants from all sorts of departments and background, and we actually researched their experience, and they actually enjoyed. They enjoyed it, but even more importantly, this is the slide which is more important, is that the completion rate was over 32%. So that's almost 3 times more the average MOOC. So introducing social elements actually made a difference. And so we're able to have, actually we ran this MOOC twice, and it was sustainable, and the participants, they achieved the learning goals and acquired new skills in a friendly and community atmosphere. So it was successful. So the next step was, all right, let's try then playful design actually work in e-learning. So what about gamification? So the next step was to gamify one course, and I did that when I was teaching in the University of the West of England in Bristol, as said. And there was one master of education virtual worlds, and I was responsible to teach the artificial intelligence, bots, and non-player characters module, which was it's run for 12 weeks, and so on. So what I did was I created this structure where we have this quest, and we used game mechanics and story, points, level, quests, classes, and badges and achievements. So participants, they were challenged to assume a professional role and share their personal goals. And they were invited to rise and reach 12 levels. For example, senior designer or NPC master, or non-player character, right? Is NPC for master. And so they were able to earn points by engaging some of these quests. And you can see there are different types of quests: solo, raid, which is group, or guild, which is the whole class, corresponding to different tasks. And as said, we also had different characters for people with different preferences and different, I would say, background that they have. So the monk was the more theoretical guy, so the student of sources and defender of the written word. So they would read and they would write and so on. The artisan, on the other hand, would be someone who would have programming skills and will be more than happy to develop solutions, while the BART is also versed in web chatbots and public performances. So these are all characters with that are associated and linked with the actual outcome of the module. So again, we run some research for the 14 students of the module, and the results, to keep it short, is they achieved high levels of creative thinking and innovative adaptation of the material. They actually proposed additional activities beyond the what was mandatory in this course, and yeah, they were quite engaged in this. There's also paper. All these studies, they have been, there are more details in paper, so you can see that you can read more if you are interested. So the conclusion of all these cases and experience was that web-based solutions, they do have some limitations when it comes especially for semester-long courses. Of course, we know that, for example, Zoom fatigue and so on, so sometimes it can be tiring to use this kind of technology. But social virtual reality can come to the rescue and can actually support deep and meaningful learning and knowledge transfer in distance education. So engage and make people excited and have fun, and so that they are willing, they're motivated to come, participate, and discover the magic and the usefulness behind the actual course. And so these two approaches, playful and gameful design, they can enhance the motivation of the students. And if you do that, then you're on the good course, you're on the right course to transform your e-learning. So finally, my final words are 3D or not 3D, that is the question. And of course, the reply and the answer is up to you. So thank you very much for your attention so far. And I am very much looking forward to your questions. So Margaret, back to you.
Right. Hi. Just coming up as well. Hi. I found it absolutely fascinating. I was just looking on the chat one. So if anyone would like to put some more questions through into the chat area, or alternatively put them in through the question area. But certainly I had a few issues that came up that I was thinking about. With the hospital, which country was using the MRI scan? With the
Actually, yeah, if you I think this was the UK, but also in the United States as well. So this is not the only one. So if you search for child MRI, you will see many of examples of people who took the initiative to make it fun for children, and yeah, and have fun even when they're taking MRI.
Could I actually ask, when they're in the scan, because I know I've been through the scan and it's a little bit boring, was there anything for them to look at while it's happening?
No, I mean, I didn't go deeper into this specific example, but so far it was just the aesthetics. So that's for them to, it's just psychologically, I mean, the actual experience didn't change. However, they were able to create this layer of story, of excitement, of something that they can use their imagination and also and try to see something beyond the actual task. So yes, sometimes you have to do something which is tiresome. It can be boring, for example, just taking MRI scan. However, yeah, you can use your imagination and say, okay, now you are the captain and this is your now you're hostage, for example, and then you are in the jail, but you have to endure, and if you do that you will be able to escape, and so on. So you can create a story and yeah, you can have some fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's the same approach that we can, if you want, and if it's appropriate, of course, to have towards in our e-learning.
Stop the recording now. One of the areas that also that was very interesting is that the changes from when we were all very interested in Second Life some years ago, is it really beginning to come back in another form?
Yeah, as I mentioned, there are new platforms that are emerging that are supporting even the new devices, such as the headsets, and but also the mobile devices as well. So imagine you can be in a virtual world, hold your classes there, and you have students using their mobile phones to enter it, but also, I mean, of course, in a limited capacity, but still they will be able to hear and see. But then also through desktop and laptops, but also through VR headsets. Hopefully, in the future, there will be more widespread as well. So that's possible. So it's possible to do that. So limitations that virtual worlds had, such as Second Life, they are addressed through new platforms. So look them out, and if you are interested, yeah, let me know. Maybe I can help you out with, finding some which could be meaningful for you as well. I mean,
Certainly.
to teachers out there, in our audience, that's what I meant. Not just you, Margaret.
What I'm going to do is actually unmute all attendees so they can actually ask questions directly.
Okay.
If you're asking questions, could you just say who you are and which country you're coming from? I noticed that we've got.
I'm from UK, and I just sent a link about in Thailand. There's a hospital. They're using such type of technologies for technology and layout for children in hospitals. And there's a link.
Was that through the chat?
Yeah, it's linked. Is paste the link over there. You can click on it or copy and paste in your browser.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to see the the postings of participants. So there's somewhere, but yeah, there's somewhere hidden.
I can't see that one.
Yeah,
but
we can see.
Perhaps if you could send that link to me, I'll actually put it up and include it on the when we put the slides up.
Yep.
Any other questions?
And my name is Mark. I am in the U.S. in Georgia, and I have a son who is a web developer, and I've dabbled in programming and programming languages myself. So I'm curious, knowing, and I have a younger son who went to Full Sail University, where they have a gaming design degree. So I'm pretty aware of the amount of programming required to create such virtual worlds. So one of the things I was curious about is what's the time constraints or requirements for lesson planning using this more gamification technology versus a more traditional. And the other is if you're getting into more serious topics. You're talking about history. You're talking, which could be a phenomenal way to use this technology. But medicine, same thing. You could. There's a lot of virtual information available, more in medicine probably than any. But still, what's the long-term retention like for long-term recall and things like that? So the time to prepare and then the long-term benefit to the student, basically.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your question. So yes, indeed, preparation, as we know, for any kind of technology in distance education is considerable, and it's something that we all have to do in any ways. However, when it comes especially to virtual worlds, there are solutions that don't require much programming for them to take place. I mean, you asked specifically about gamification, but I would ask about playful design. So playful design can be very simple. So it's a matter of just using a different venue for your meetings, for example, to take place. So it can be something so simple. But if you want to structure a whole new game, of course, you will not be able to use off-the-shelf software or solution. However, there are some platforms that can do that, but the difficult is the actual management. So keeping track of what people are doing and managing and creating the leaderboard. So unless you're using a kind of LMS to keep track of all of these things, and there are some solutions that I could point out, then that's where the main burden in terms of time does take place. And when it comes then to the long-term effects and retention of the information, what I've seen is it's just like when you're having a memorable experience, whatever the context, but especially in educational context, you tend to remember it, it came back more. And of course, if it can provide richer experience, so it's not just a call and you see a window of me here, but if you can see, for example, you can see a very fantastic place, or maybe you have a maze that you have to go there. So if it's experience that you have fun and emotions are triggered, we know from neuroscience that once emotions are triggered, they make the retention and the memory of this experience stronger and more durable. So that's the idea: trigger positive emotions that facilitate learning, and then make these learning experience memorable, and so that they stick more in our long-term memory. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Do we have some other questions or comments?
Well, I wrote something.
Hello, Eleni.
Yeah, hello. Hello from Finland. Okay. Yeah, I wrote a question already in the chat, but I would like to ask also live. So, Stylianos, would you like to share with us what motivated you to do this work, and what did not motivate you, and what still keeps motivating you, and what doesn't?
Thank you very much, Eleni. Well, Eleni, she was my PhD supervisor, so I'm very helpful to her. She was instructional for all of this work that took place. Well, the motivation was as myself, as an educator. I have a long time experience as instructor in face-to-face settings, but also then since 15 years ago in e-learning as well. So for me, it was no-brainer. I mean, the first bet that each educator faces once he or she enters any kind of classroom, physical or virtual, is to win the hearts of the students. If you win the hearts, the minds will follow. So, so my primary concerns is for them to lack the experience, to have fun, but actually, as I say, have hard fun. So it's not just like spending a nice time without any merit, but actually having fun, engaging with content, solving questions and problems, and pushing ourselves and going beyond what we can do, and providing value to all the people that the stakeholders in the experience. So this was the motivation, and immediately I recognized that these kind of approaches, while experimenting with them, they were successful, and so I kept on doing them, and I kept practicing and also researching on them, and I keep doing it as well, because I think that as we say, today is, as Margaret said, today is the Teachers' Day, and I think that teachers are under-recognized and they are not sufficiently supported, and I think that e-learning, and especially open learning and communities like this one, like the British Computer Society, can be very instrumental for people to find solutions, find support, and improve their teaching methods so they can be successful. And I see it as my responsibility to share a little bit of what I have done, and what could be of value to anybody, so that we can bring the best we can to our young ones, our children, and hopefully to that make the world a better place. So that's the journey.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Margaret. I've just got one question.
Carry on.
Hi, everyone. My name is Blessing. I'm from the UK. Thank you very much, Stylianos, for a really inspiring talk. I know during your talk you mentioned that motivation is very important, and it's been described as the engine of learning. So I just wanted to know if you could just share maybe a few things on how we could enhance learners' motivations, particularly now that most of the learning is happening digitally.
Well, I think even putting in, we know that motivation is a problem even in physical classrooms. So already that shows the extent of the problem. So for me, I'm going to draw from my own personal experience. Start with care. So caring for your learners. So not caring about my lesson plan or my lecture or my whatever I have in mind to do, because I am a wise person and I have to do what I follow, stick to my plan. For me, it's all about feeling, getting to know all my students. And I'm grateful to one colleague and mentor of mine who actually introduced me to one very important, for me at least, technique to showcase and demonstrate this care in a very realistic way. And I'm talking about adult education, where it's you have some adult learners, and they're with you for a couple of maybe weeks or months at best. So in this case, for me, it was very important in the physical classroom to memorize all the names of everyone. For me, they're just students. Okay, student number one, and I don't know who are you, the blonde one or the girl one or whoever. For me, it's important for them to recognize them and talk to them in person. And it drew for me huge satisfaction to have a 20+ audience and be able to remember everyone's name and call them from the very first, after the first 10 minutes, to be able to remember each one of all the people. So for me, it starts with care. For example, something as simple as getting to know the people and their names, what they're doing, what their needs are. So as we say, training needs analysis. We just say it and we know that's part of the ADI framework. But for me, it's something very important, very realistic, and it's also dynamic, because sometimes people face serious problems. So the learning is their second or third or objective, and they don't care so much about it, but instead they want to try and they have to solve other more pressing problems. So keeping an eye on such issues and be open, so that people can are encouraged and they're not intimidating, and they can share with you if they're facing a personal challenge. For me, it's important, especially when it comes to e-learning. So hopefully these are some ideas where to start. I mean, which are already have nothing to do already with the teaching and learning. But if we do that, we have this kind of spirit with us, and we have empathy, and we have we care about the people, and we always try to learn what their situation is, if they're healthy, if they're safe, if they have other concerns, if whatever is happening in their lives. If we can do that, we're more than likely to be successful. And of course, it helps if you can build flexibility there. So, for example, sometimes, as we are all adults, we have multiple roles. Sometimes we have obligations that are related to family or other developments in our personal lives or professional lives. So if we don't have rigid timelines and deadlines, and we can build in some flexibility, it is something that I have seen that can be very helpful for people not to drop out and persist and stay on and endure and actually complete the journey of a course, of an e-learning course. So hopefully that helps.
Do we have some more questions or comments? One thing I was thinking about in this very difficult time, there is a lot of teachers have suddenly found that they were teaching, whether small children or right on to adults at university, having to teach remotely, where they had no prior experience. How could you suggest, what could they do to help them?
Well, what we have done in my university, one crazy project that I embarked upon 4 years ago was to start a distance education school, let's say, for lifelong learning courses. So we had this problem, of course, of actually teaching and preparing tutors for them to design and also teach online. So what we did is we worked with mentors, online mentors. So we encouraged people to follow some established and some experienced teachers to see how they're actually doing, how they're teaching, how they're using interactive methods. And I'm a little bit disappointed we weren't able to do that today to the extent that I wanted with the questions and the chat and so on, but still you get the idea. But so first of all, see a more experienced peer, how they're actually using all the actual the theory that they're supposed to do, and then encourage them to actually do it as well, and then have the mentor also be present there and then provide feedback. So that's what we did to on the job training also and monitoring. So using this kind of online mentors helped a lot to accelerate the prowess and the skills and the competences of newcomers into distance education.
Thank you. I think that's a very good point. Is there any other questions or comments?
Hi, Stylianos. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Excellent. My name is Bernie and I am in the UK. I'm an ex-computing teacher who's really now involved in developing teaching and learning resources for students who are over 16 on vocational programs. I've got no experience whatsoever of applying anything gamification or playful design related in my resources. You've really inspired me to find out more, but I haven't got a clue where to start. Can you give me an idea on where I can start?
Right, where to start? Well, I mean, you can take either the theoretical route or the practical one. I suggest to take the practical one. So so you can start. I can have all the slides, and they will be all of them. They will be available. So maybe you can start with the slide with the different platforms that are related to. So that are related to virtual reality. So maybe this one.
Okay.
So so you can maybe look up some of these technology and see what kind of applications that have been developed already for your courses. For example, when it comes to programming, you'll find excellent resources and modules and that you can use to set up games to use them and for them. So look these tools up and see what kind of applications there are. And if I may also use this opportunity for a seamless plug, we recently they were released as a systematic literature review on game-based learning in virtual worlds. So we will be able to find it on my ResearchGate and my academia accounts. So if you look it up and find, or you put my name and game-based learning or systematic review, you will be able to find it. Otherwise, you can also contact me and I can send to you.
Game-based learning, did you say?
Yes. Systematic literature review on game-based learning in virtual worlds. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure, Bernie.
Could I actually ask you, I think on your, is it your final slide where you've got some, or the first slide, you can actually add some further information about your books and your courses, etc.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can add, if you want, a slide with links to various resources, for example, this paper or some courses or the video and so on. So I can do that. I can add it as well, so that you have all the links all together. So how
that would be marvelous, Stylianos. Thank you.
That would be fantastic. And I'll actually arrange when you send that PowerPoint slides to me as a new set. I'll get them added on so everybody could download.
Yep. Okay.
That's fantastic. Is there any other questions or points?
Oh, hello. I'm Deborah Eacott from the UK. I'm a digital lead for an FE college, and I deliver Unreal Engine to our gamers. And you are absolutely right. Gamification certainly does take off, and it certainly has a niche. And it certainly is motivating. And interestingly enough, I actually ran this as a Saturday club for from how old were they? They were about 13 to 15-year-olds, And interestingly enough, they picked it up developing these environments, and they thought it was, you know, really interesting, and that kind of helped them to, you know, because they're our future. They are our future, and that's, you know, I think you're right. I think in the, you know, in the future, the gamification will, you know, will be, that's how we'll learn, and that's how their peers will learn, and everyone will start learning. And in fact, interesting enough, I've got a few links with the MOD, that this is what they do. They do, you know, they design and develop for the police. They look at, you know, gamification. They do it, but they also do manual games, and then they also do simulation games, and they're like training patches as well. So I think you're right, and I think it's not just motivation for 13-year-olds. It could be for, you know, for any age, because I think motivation is, you know, doesn't have an age on it. You're either motivated or you're not.
Indeed.
But yes, it definitely has a niche, and it was very interesting. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Have we got any other comments?
I do have another question. This is oriented more towards where my youngest son went to college in Full Sail University in Florida, where they have a an arts orientation. He studied music production, but like I said before, they have a gaming design degree. It's an accelerated program. It's a 20-month year-round bachelor's degree. But I was curious if you've ever talked with any of the universities anywhere in the world about your ideas, because at least in the United States, we know that gaming as a recreational activity has some upsides to it, but it also has an extremely addictive nature that can be detrimental in large ways, and it seems to strongly attract males more than females, although that's flattening out. But to take the notions and the concepts that you have of imparting knowledge, experience, you know, giving experiential learning opportunities to students through these similarly motivational experiences. Have you talked to some of these universities about trying to orient their program toward that?
Right. Yeah, of course, as you say, institutional level and organization and scaling up is a challenge. And no, I haven't been able to take this up to this way, because I think that there isn't one solution that fits all and is suitable for every kind of person. So what I do instead, I think it should be a personalized experience and should be unique in each context. So I don't think I can develop something can be useful for everyone. However, separate resources or some experience, they can. That's where the collaboration, the power of collaboration networks come in. So of course I'm open. For example, one recent project that we did was to develop an escape room, which is for educational purposes, to learn about enzymes in biology. So you have fun, and you have to have a series of challenges and puzzles to solve once you learn about enzymes. Otherwise, you're locked in this virtual reality escape room. You won't be able to escape. So that's something that a route that someone can take, and hopefully can inspire other people, and can be a shared resource for other people. However, what I am proposing and saying, as you said as well, is that start simple and start by cultivating a different culture where fun is part of the equation, and isn't something that that is seen as something which is inferior or unsuitable for academic environment. You can be very serious and can be very rigorous, have a high academic rigor, but having fun and be playful at the same time. And that said, of course, I agree with you that male, female, and the different approaches towards games, it's a reality. However, that's why we have the responsibility to find people, collaborators who can help us choose wisely the game dynamics and the game mechanics that we're going to use and introduce in our experiences, in our courses. So if you structure and make a game on competition, then of course males, they will thrive and they will like it and so on, and they will engage in this in their own way. While we know that if you make it more collaboratively and make it more about expression and about creation and creativity, then you will see how this game can be very appealing and can be very useful for female users and players as well. So what I'm suggesting is know your audience well, very, very well. Don't be afraid even to go to engage with interviews and so on, and choose wisely how you're going to structure your game or the gameful experience so that you can take into account the preferences, the profile, and the way that they prefer to learn and they like to engage with content as well. There's a lot of literature about, for example, when it comes to player types. So we know that there are killers, we know they're socializers, we know they are explorers, and also achievers. So there are different people that are enjoying different aspects of a game. Of course, these are more formulaic, and they're it's an ancient, I would say, research on that. But the lesson learned is that there are different types and different people appreciate different things, and so we should try the instructional design and the game design. They should align, and the game mechanics and the learning mechanics, so that they can be appealing to the group of the people, or if all of the types and the groups that we can we know that we have to address, so that for our learning to be engaging, interesting for all of sexes and all kinds of types of people that will be participating. So I hope that helps.
May I say something to support what Stelios just said? Yes, okay, I will. Okay. Well, it is true that there are differences in the preferences of regarding gender. It is also true that the learning styles are very, very different. Culture has a lot to do with it. So when you design a game, it's like you design a script. You have to be aware of what will be your protagonist, what will be the people around, how many women, are there enough women so other women will be attracted to attend the game and learn? And coming to learning and work, nowadays I can say, to go back to the beginning of this question, that there is a lot of interest here in Finland, but also in Europe, about organizational life, working life, and knowledge creation, because teleworking becomes more and more demanding, and it will be more and more also. So there is a need to put some elements of playful learning and playful work even. So gamification in work processes is very important also. So maybe we will see the next European research framework that will be called for this research. So that's all. Thank you. And thank you, Stelios, for your inspiring talk. It's very interesting because you brought many questions up, and that shows that's to me the measure of success.
Yep, it's all about pushing ourselves and asking the hard questions, but also creating a network and networks and societies and communities where we can collectively work on solutions, collaborate, and be more successful in our everyday work. So hopefully that will be a step in these directions for everyone. So thank you very much again for the invitation and the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to keeping in touch with you online. And I'm also more than happy to share if you have any more, if you like more information, and also share your experiences as well.
I think this was fantastic. It was a marvelous presentation. We really appreciated it, and had a lot of questions at the end. And I was very, very interested, particularly in encouraging the gender, because there's a real need to encourage more girls and motivate them into the technology side. And I think at this stage, I appreciate it when you send me the modified slides with all the sort of appropriate links, etc. And I'll actually get them added on so everybody can download them. And in which case I think we'd like to say thank you very much. And if everybody would like to clap their hands.
Thank you so much. Take care, stay safe,
Thank you very
and
much.
see you online in the next webinar.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you so
I'll
much.
close the webinar down. Thank you. Thank you so much.